Hello everyone and welcome back to a proper crafting video. My name is Gabriel, and this is TBD Crafts, and today we'll be working on a diorama that a classmate commissioned off me for his Bruce Lee figures. And these are them. This is a kind of a more affordable, cheaper set of Bruce Lee figurines you can get off Amazon if you are a Bruce Lee fan. And I am going to be making this diorama on this circle plate. I actually found this at a local, I don't want to say thrift store, it's called the Bin Spot. They take rejected Amazon returns and just throw stuff in there, and I found this random piece of black wood in there. Thought it'd be a perfect base for a diorama, didn't have anything to use it for until this came onto my lap here. So the plan is to split it into 4 quadrants, each depicting a very basic but gets the point across scene that each one of these figurines is from. An iconic scene from each figurine. Now these figurines are kind of low in detail, so I'm going to be making the diorama to match that. I don't want the diorama to outshine the figures, I just want the diorama to enhance the figures. So first things first is we need to put this on the CNC router and make a cross in it. This will allow us to put some walls up a lot easier than if I were just glued on the surface. This ensures that there is some strength behind all of it. And to do this, I am going to be using balsa wood. This is my first time using balsa wood in a diorama. So much so that I actually don't remember if this is balsa wood or basswood, because I did this a long time ago. It's been working on this for several months with school and stuff. I never got around to it, and especially after moving. But I finally got around to it, and this is how it turned out. Now I did use kind of like the paper construction that you see a lot back in the day. I know Transformers did something like that. It was really weird. But that will have the walls just slide into each other that way. Again, it gives it a little more rigidity than if I were just to cut them into 4 pieces. Especially with this being a really soft wood. I want there to be as much strength as possible. And it doesn't slot in perfectly because the person who I had CNC this for me accidentally cut in a couple extra wider grooves, or some of them weren't exactly centered. So I'm working with what I have, but it works. And we're using a little bit of hot glue to secure those in. I did have to carve, you didn't see it on camera, but I did have to carve or shave some more wood off the channels in there just so I can make sure they slide in properly, which does leave a couple gaps. But I did later fill that in with a couple tiny balsa wood shims that I made out of the excess that I had left over. And with the way I shaved it, I had to kind of figure out which side fit best, so that way it fit in the channels as evenly and as straight up and down as possible, without it bowing or looking wonky at first glance. That's only when you really stare at it in person that you can kind of notice some of the wonkiness. But like I said, this diorama was never meant to be perfect. And here is one of the first scenes that I'll be depicting. It is the scene where, with the Bruce Lee in the black tunic. So I'll be making some cardboard boxes and a blue oil barrel. There's a blue oil barrel in the scene. I wanted to get that in there too. I'm not making all the boxes. I'm not absolutely lining this because I do want there to be space for the figure. So I'm going to make a few boxes with this template that I'm making, and even some bigger ones with that same base template. I did increase it for some of them, and these actually turned out really good. These are actually some of my favorite things that I've made. I was absolutely chuffed with these. My wife will tell you I was absolutely elated with these. It's actually quite unreasonable how happy I was. This wooden dowel is what I will be using for the barrel. It's a little large, but it fits perfect. It fits for what I need. It fits well enough in scale. I mean, barrels can be super huge or really small. So this works. I used a polystyrene sheet. I believe it was 0.020 that I used, and I used the knife there to curl it like a ribbon, and some glue to hold it in place with the masking tape as well until the glue set. And that just created the ridges that you see in the middle of the barrel. After that was all done, I primed and painted it blue. And again, was super happy with it. I did eventually get a 3D printer, and that's what I used for the rest of it. But that's part of the reason why I didn't work on it for so long, and because of moving. It wasn't until several months later that I finally was able to get back to it, literally last week at the time of recording this, versus when I started at the beginning of the year, which is crazy. And I did start working on one of the other rooms. This is the room for the yellow suit Bruce Lee. I have a reference up in the left corner. That is, like I said, not supposed to be a perfect representation or a replication of the scene, but rather just a representation. So the black squares aren't probably as big as they should be, but they work for what I wanted out of this. They fit my vision for this. And at the same time, I was able to 3D print that grid rather than having to do it all by hand. And like I said, this is my first time working with this material, so I really didn't want to mess it up more than I probably already did. But it wasn't too hard. I used some Elmer's glue here to glue them to the basswood to the balsa wood, because I did use both types. Now this was the first frame I did. The second one I did it the same way because I already had the pieces cut out, but for the bits on the ends, at the end of the walls, I did do them a lot better, more efficiently. And these are just wooden basswood square columns that I shaved down and sanded to represent pillars, the cylindrical pillars in the background of the photo. Now for this room, I'm using this image as the reference. There is that wooden wheel behind Bruce Lee that I cannot find any other references for. So I found this on Thingiverse. I split it in half and turned one half of it around so that way it'd be more of like a water wheel, I guess. And if you can see in the image, there's this weird like triangular base for it, which is what I will be trying to represent here with some more wood. I did end up going through a couple iterations of this just to make sure I made it right and didn't make it look too much like a Ferris wheel. This whole process of getting to this point of having this diorama mostly done, because I guess as you can see from the title, this is just a part one of the construction, not the painting. This whole process took several hours. I cut down about 3 hours of footage, 12 minutes and 54 seconds, which blew my mind that I was even able to do that but this is where I ended up with, and I think it came out right. It will get painted later. I'm keeping it separate so I can paint the whole thing, and then I'll glue it in place afterwards. And I also added the pillar in the back corner and some trim along the edges there on the bottom of the floor. This room, this quadrant, will remain as is because this is going to be representing the flying ninja kick. This figure, this is the reference that I'm using. So it will be all outdoor. So I'll be able to use more traditional, what I'm used to, outdoor foliage type diorama making for this. And I'm going to make that, I'm going to show you the process of that in part 2, but for now I am getting Bruce Lee here in place. I used a length of armature wire, sculpting armature wire, to hold him in place. The figurine has a hole on his underside for a stand, but my classmate did not give me a stand for this, so I had to make do with what I had, and it's going to be a more permanent fixture anyways. And even though this is just a construction, this is only the base construction, there is going to be more that I add to it later on, but I wanted to get this out first so that way it was out and done and I wouldn't have to worry about it, so that way I can focus on painting it and finishing the construction throughout this next week to get that video out next week. Here's the completed room that would have the grid squares. I'm using this wood filler to fill in all the little gaps between the planks there. Now the gaps between the columns and the planks are a little bit larger, and this wood filler was just drying way faster than any wood filler I've used, so I'm actually going to go ahead and clean off the dust that was left at the bottom and use this Elmer's glue, sort of like caulking. And that's what I used to fill all the seams in this whole diorama. I let that dry and continue on, so that way I can post this video, the next video, part 2, next week. And with that, that's pretty much the end of part 1. So that's it for the video, guys. That is the end of part 1 of the Bruce Lee diorama venture that I've been on for several months now. I wanted to thank you all for watching, and stay tuned for part 2 next week, where I'll be painting it and finishing the construction. But I also wanted to thank you guys for 1,000 subscribers. I was absolutely overjoyed when I got the notification on my phone, and to celebrate 1,000 subscribers, I wanted to do a giveaway. So to enter the giveaway is super simple. Just comment down below what one of my projects that I've done, my crafting projects on the channel, which one has been your favorite, and winner first place gets this diorama display base. Works with 1/12 and 1/6 scale, and second place gets this one. Both work with 1/12, 1/6 scale. So yeah, thank you all so much for watching. They are both dioramas that I sell in my Etsy shop, so if you guys are interested in watching and getting those to enhance your collection displays, go for it. I try to sell affordable dioramas for people who want to enhance their displays. So again, thank you all for watching. Comment down below to enter the giveaway, and I will be announcing that not next week, but the week after. So give a little time for people to enter. So yeah, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next week in the next video, finishing up the Bruce Lee project. So wherever you are in the world, have a good day, good night, good morning, good evening. And I'll see you all next week.